What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to be going over the book Fire Me, I Beg You by Robbie Abed. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. The subtitle is Quit Your Miserable Job Without Risking It All. Before I get to the reason why it's called that, you can probably guess, but before I get to that, I wanted to remind everybody to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and check out the descriptions for ways you can help me out. One of the easiest ways is to buy this through the Amazon affiliate link in there. You can also donate through the Buy Me a Coffee link, but just check out the description because I could be changing the ways that you can help me out if you like the content. So the reason this book is called Fire Me, I Beg You is because one time Robbie was called into his boss's office and it was an email that told him to come in there, and he was just hoping that he would get fired because he hated his job. And he had a couple of jobs in here that he hated. There's not really groundbreaking stuff in this book, but one of the reasons I did like it, I do like the book overall, but there's some things I don't like, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I do like it because it's for people that want to quit their job and have nothing lined up. And I know there's a lot of people like that out there. I was definitely one of them. And if you want to quit your job, it just encourages you to do that. And there's not many people that'll encourage you to do that. And he provides ways for you to take the next step in your life after that. But there's not many people that are as bold as him. He does have James Altucher in the forward. He's obsessed with James Altucher, and that's another reason why I like him. I like James Altucher. I do think James Altucher is a way better author than him, and just approaches the psychology that Robbie's trying to impart on people. He approaches it better. And I would encourage people to read that. But if you're really wanting to, if you have a miserable job and you want to quit it, you need something to encourage you, then this is the book for you. Let me just look at my notes. So the one thing I don't like about this book is this guy, at some points he's humble, but a lot of the book is just him bragging about how awesome he is without giving really like concrete examples other than a couple of LinkedIn articles that have a lot of views. I think his biggest accomplishment is probably this book and the blog post he wrote, which was Fire Me, I Beg You. And then him flipping that into this book. Those are probably his biggest accomplishments. And then from there, it's really unclear. He thinks he's great at LinkedIn, networking, and writing content, like marketing. But he doesn't really have a bunch of examples. When you start researching him, it's a little bit all over the place. So, and I'm not trying to speak poorly about him, but I'm just saying you're going to have to deal with a lot of that in this book about him speaking about how awesome and great he is at everything. And then you try and figure out what he's doing now. It's not really clear. He says he's ghostwriting for CEOs, but so that's just something you have to contend with. And the overall path of this book is talking about how a lot of us have jobs we don't like, why we don't like them. And he goes into a little bit of coaching, which I'll speak about in a little bit. And then he teaches you or tells you how to find another job or take an entrepreneurial path. It's really unclear which one he would prefer you do. It's just, he just throws out all these things you can do. And that's what I sort of said before, is he's not an expert in any one of these areas. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you should probably get another book. If you really want a career book, you should probably also get another book, because there's a lot of advice in here about LinkedIn that I think might be a little bit old, because he wrote this a number of years ago, probably like 6 years ago. So I feel like a lot of the tips he gives about LinkedIn aren't as relevant as they used to be. And if you look at his LinkedIn, I'm not really sure how it stands out, but he calls himself a LinkedIn expert. So in case you are wanting to move from another job to another job and you just need a push to help you quit and a little bit of advice on finding another job, then you can look at this. The networking as well. He's obsessed with networking. He talks about how he took over 200 meetings. And to me, that's over networking. And I think you can really distract yourself if you try and network as much as him. I get what he means about networking and using networking to get a job in a field that you're not familiar with. But I tried a little bit of that, and you just end up wasting a lot of time. He talks about how you shouldn't have that mindset either, but that's where I felt like I was going down the wrong path and trying to follow some of his advice. Is just, I don't know. You can spend a lot of time trying to network in a field that you're not comfortable in, and you just keep pushing into a field and you don't really have expertise, and so you're trying to connect with people, but you don't really bring that much to them, so it can be a little bit awkward. But another good thing that I liked about this book, like I said, is he tells you like a little bit of coaching and how to approach your job, because many people that are miserable at their jobs are miserable because they try too hard. And then he gives his own story about that, and he encourages you not to try so hard, which I agree with. You shouldn't be burning yourself out as a job you don't like that doesn't recognize you. Now, if you are being recognized in your job or maybe in your business, then you won't have these issues. But if you're not, then you need to pull back a little bit. Try less. He gives a bunch of tips on how to try less, like don't speak at meetings. Same thing about calls, ways to answer emails. And I think all of that is very useful, and many people need to hear that. And if you go to an executive coach or a therapist, they'll probably tell you the same thing. So that's what I liked about this book. And another good thing about this book is he gives like potential outcomes of you quitting your job. And he gives like all the potential outcomes, because when you're into self-help and you get into this category of quitting your miserable job, there's generally, I guess you'd say, 3 categories. Staying at your job and being miserable, or staying at your job and trying to like make it work, or quit and just do nothing and kind of put your hopes and dreams out there. And then there's the one where you're going to quit and start a business and you're going to be successful. Well, he like outlines all of those examples in one page, and I wanted to read a couple because I think that page is really good. And it's on page 82 of the paperback. And he says, you can quit, start a new company, fail, find another full-time job. Quit, explore, network, struggle, midlife crisis, survive, become a freelancer. Don't quit, stay miserable, never get laid off, stay miserable. And it's just funny. He gives you all these examples of the paths you can take. It's not one example. Usually when you get a book about this, they tell you one way to do it. And in the last book that I reviewed, The Parallel Entrepreneur, he tells you keep your job, kind of stay miserable, and then build up a side software as a service business. And that was his path. And he like everything he talked about was kind of along that path. And it was just like, that guy was just like, don't quit your job no matter what. Where Robbie's like, one of the sayings that he has is that your sanity is, he's like, if you don't quit your job, you will lose your sanity. But sanity is greater than money any day of the week. But he also says you have to have money to keep your sanity. So it's balancing that, and whether you have to stay at your job or not is going to be determined by like whether you can afford it or not. And he talks about, you don't quit your job unless you have enough money saved up. And he says in order to do that, you're going to need to, in order to like quit your job and start the next chapter of your life, if you don't have anything lined up, you're going to need to master your finances, time management, and mental management. Because you're going to need to manage your time more wisely now that you're on your own. Mental management, you're going to be struggling a lot with being on your own. So that's just something to know if you're not going to find a job right away, that you can psych yourself out. You might not have enough money. And that's why he gives that coaching advice of how to stay at your current job in case you do decide to stay and maybe get careless a little, and then you can save more money until you can quit and do something else. But that's what I liked about this book, as I said, is that he gives examples of things that you can do. Like it doesn't have to be quit your job and then you're immediately successful at a startup or at a business that you start. Like you can just go back and forth. And honestly, when I looked at his background and looked at his websites, because he has a few websites, he has one for the book that gives career advice. He has his own, and it looks like he's kind of hopping around. It looks like he's trying different things out because he's in technology. He looks like he worked at technology startups. He worked at content marketing. He's working at coaching people. He's trying to write books. He's trying to be similar to James Altucher. But overall, I like this book for the advice he gives on quitting your job The beginning of this book is really good. Is really good, and that one page I told you about all the potential outcomes, it really gives your brain something to think about all the potential outcomes and how there's no right path. Because that's another one of my beliefs, is there's no one right path in life. We only have one life, and you have to enjoy living it yourself. And it's okay to stumble. And I do agree with his quote that your sanity is greater than money or a job any day of the week. And you have to find the best ways to keep your sanity. But you also do have to find financial independence. But there's multiple ways to approach that. And he gives some options here. To get specifics about finding a new job or starting a business, I think you're going to have to go elsewhere. He has like a work plan on how to start your own business or go into a new field. I didn't like it that much. But overall, like I said, I think this is good for people that are in a miserable job and just, it's kind of like therapy, the first part of the book. So I recommend it for that. But that's my summary and review of the book, Fire Me, I Beg You. Stay up to date on all my book reviews. Make sure to subscribe to his channel, and you can help me out by liking this video. Thanks for watching.